Welcome to Wisdom-Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2768 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom-Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title for today's Wisdom-Trek is The God of History, the Unbreakable Oath, and the Protected Wanderers. Today, we turn a new page in our journey through the Psalter. We are stepping into the historical landscape of Psalm 105, covering the opening movement, verses 1 through 15, in the New Living Translation. To understand where we are, we need to look back at the trail we have just hiked. In Psalm 103, we looked inward. We heard David command his own soul to bless the Lord for his grace, forgiveness, and fatherly compassion. It was a psalm of personal redemption. In Psalm 104, we looked upward and outward. We saw God as the cosmic architect, robed in light, playing with Leviathan, and feeding the lions. It was a psalm of creation and nature. Now, Psalm 105 asks us to look backward. It shifts our focus from creation to history. It tells us that the God who built the universe is also the God who orchestrates the rise and fall of nations to keep his promises to a specific family. This psalm is a recounting of the covenant. It reminds us that our faith is not based on abstract philosophy or feelings. It is based on things that actually happened in space and time. It is a story of how Yahweh, the Most High God, stepped into the timeline of humanity to carve out a people for himself. So, let us open the archives of heaven and remember the story that defines us. The first segment is the Liturgy of Storytelling, Making His Deeds Known. Psalm 105, verses 1 through 4. Give thanks to the Lord and proclaim his greatness. Let the whole world know what he has done. Sing to him, yes, sing his praises. Tell everyone about his wonderful deeds. Exult in his holy name. Rejoice, you who worship the Lord. Search for the Lord and for his strength. Continually seek him. The psalm begins with a burst of imperative commands. The psalmist is rallying the troops, not for a battle, but for a proclamation. Give thanks to the Lord and proclaim his greatness. The phrase proclaim his greatness is literally call upon his name. In the Bible, calling on the name of the Lord is an act of public worship and dependence. It is identifying yourself by his name. But notice the target audience. Let the whole world know what he has done. The Hebrew word for world here is amim, the peoples or the nations. This is crucial for our ancient Israelite worldview. Remember, since the Tower of Babel, Genesis 11, the nations were disinherited and placed under the authority of lesser spiritual beings. Deuteronomy 32:8. But here, the psalmist commands Israel to go back to those nations and announce the deeds of Yahweh. This is evangelism through history. We don't just tell the world God loves you. We tell the world what he has done. We recount the Exodus, the conquest, and the miracles. We give evidence. Sing to him. Tell everyone about his wonderful deeds. The word wonderful deeds, niflat, refers to acts that are humanly impossible supernatural interventions. We are to be the storytellers of the miraculous. Then the focus turns to the heart of the worshiper. Exult in his holy name. Rejoice, you who worship the Lord. To exult means to glory or boast. We are to be proud of our God. In a world full of idols and false narratives, we boast in the name of Yahweh. Search for the Lord and for his strength. Continually seek him. This command to seek Bakash implies an active, desperate pursuit. We seek his strength us, perhaps referring to the Ark of the Covenant, which was often called God's strength. But note the frequency, continually. We don't just find God once and retire. We seek his face every single day. History is the fuel for this daily seeking. When we look back at what he did, we find the strength to seek him for what we need now. The second segment is the command to remember, the God of judgment. Psalm 105, verses 5 through 7. Remember the wonders he has performed, his miracles, and the rulings he has given. You children of his servant Abraham, you descendants of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is the Lord our God. His justice is seen in all the earth. Now comes the central intellectual command of the psalm. Remember. The Hebrew word is zakar. As we have discussed before, biblical remembrance is not just mental recall. It is bringing the significance of a past event into the present moment. It is letting the past shape your current reality. What are we to remember? 1. His wonders, the supernatural signs. 2. His miracles, the tokens or proofs of his power, the rulings he has given. Literally, the judgments of his mouth. This address is specific. You children of his servant Abraham, you descendants of Jacob, his chosen ones. The psalmist is talking to the covenant family. He grounds their identity in their genealogy. They are not just random people, they are the seed of Abraham, This takes us straight back to Genesis 12. When God called Abraham, he created a new family to be his portion, separate from the nations that were under the other gods. And because of this, verse 7 makes a massive claim. He is the Lord our God. His justice is seen in all the earth. He is Yahweh our Elohim. This is a statement of loyalty. But the second half is a statement of jurisdiction. His judgments are in all the earth. Even though the nations worship other gods, Yahweh's judicial decisions apply everywhere. When he judged Egypt, one of the nations, he proved that his authority was not limited to Canaan. He can cross borders. He can judge the gods of Egypt, Exodus 12, and the gods of Babylon. There is no square inch of the planet where his writ does not run. The third segment is the Unbreakable Oath, the Covenant of Land. Psalm 105, verses 8 through 11. He always stands by his covenant. The commitment he made to 1,000 generations is less than #0. 5 is greater than. This is the covenant he made with Abraham and the oath he swore to Isaac. He confirmed it to Jacob as a decree, and to the people of Israel as an everlasting covenant. I will give you the land of Canaan as your special possession. Here is the bedrock of Israel's existence, and indeed, the bedrock of our spiritual heritage, the covenant. He always stands by his covenant. The Hebrew puts the emphasis on the object. He remembers forever his covenant. God cannot forget it because it is an expression of his character. The commitment he made to 1,000 generations. Literally, the word he commanded. This wasn't a negotiation, it was a unilateral decree. And 1,000 generations is a Hebrew idiom for eternity. It means the deal never expires. The psalmist traces the lineage of this legal contract. The original cut of the covenant, Genesis 15 and 17. 2. Isaac, the oath sworn to the son of promise, bypassing Ishmael, Genesis 26. The confirmation to the grandson, bypassing Esau, Genesis 28. 4. Israel, the collective nation. Notice the progression. It starts as a promise, becomes an oath, Shabuah, then a decree, choke statute, and finally an everlasting covenant, Berit Olam. It gets more solid and legally binding with every generation. And what is the content of this covenant? I will give you the land of Canaan as your special possession. Why is the land so important? Why does God care about real estate? In the Divine Council worldview, the land of Canaan was the beachhead. Since the nations were under the dominion of hostile spiritual powers, God needed a physical territory, a holy zone where he could dwell with his people and launch his plan to reclaim the rest of the world. Canaan was to be the Eden restored, the headquarters of Yahweh's kingdom on earth. The phrase special possession, Shebel, literally means a measuring line or an allotment, just as the other nations were allotted to the sons of God, Deuteronomy 32:8. Canaan was allotted to Jacob as Yahweh's personal estate. The fourth segment is the protected wanderers, prophets in a foreign land. Psalm 105, verses 12 through 15. He said this when they were few in number, a tiny group of strangers in Canaan. They wandered from nation to nation, from one kingdom to another. Yet he did not let anyone oppress them. He warned kings on their behalf. Do not touch my chosen people, and do not hurt my prophets. The psalmist takes us back to the early days of Genesis, describing the vulnerability of the patriarchs. He said this when they were few in number, a tiny group of strangers in Canaan. Few in number is literally men of number, meaning they were so few you could easily count them. They were statistically insignificant. Moreover, they were strangers, Gerim. This means resident aliens. They had no legal status, no army, and no land rights except for the burial cave Abraham bought. They were living in a land that was legally theirs by divine decree, but practically occupied by Canaanites. They wandered from nation to nation, from one kingdom to another. This describes the nomadic life of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob moving between the Canaanite city-states and down to Egypt and Philistia. They were homeless wanderers. In the ancient world, a person without a clan or a city was incredibly vulnerable. They could be killed, enslaved, or robbed with no consequences. Yet he did not let anyone oppress them. He warned kings on their behalf. This refers to specific incidents in Genesis. He warned Pharaoh when he took Sarah, Genesis 12. He warned Abimelech of Gerar regarding Sarah and later Rebekah, Genesis 20. He warned Laban not to harm Jacob, Genesis 31. God acted as their invisible bodyguard. He enforced a spiritual diplomatic immunity. And here is the famous decree, do not touch my chosen people and do not hurt my prophets. The phrase chosen people is literally my anointed ones, Mashiach. This is fascinating because typically anointed refers to kings or priests. The patriarchs were neither in the formal sense. Yet God viewed them as royalty. They were the bearers of the royal seed. They were set apart by the Holy Spirit. He also calls them my prophets, Nebi. We often think of prophets as people who predict the future, like Isaiah. But the first person in the Bible explicitly called a prophet was Abraham, Genesis 27. A prophet is simply a spokesperson for God, someone who has access to the divine counsel. Abraham interceded for Sodom. He spoke with Yahweh. God's warning to the kings of the nations was clear. These men may look like homeless nomads, but they are VIPs in my kingdom. If you touch them, you answer to me. Psalm 105, verses 1 through 15, establishes the foundation of our historical faith. It teaches us that God works through process. He gave the promise of the land to Abraham, but it would be hundreds of years before his descendants actually possessed it. In the meantime, they were wanderers. But it also teaches us about protection. Even when God's people are few in number, strangers, and living in hostile territory, they are under the surveillance of the king. God rebuked pharaohs and kings to protect a single family, because that family carried the seed of the Messiah. He was playing the long game. As we walk our trek today, we may feel like strangers in this world. We may feel few in number amidst a culture that does not know God. But we are part of this same story. We are the spiritual seed of Abraham, Galatians 3:29. The covenant stands. And the same God who said, "Do not touch my anointed ones," is watching over your life today. So, proclaim his greatness. Remember his wonders. And rest in the security of his unbreakable oath. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us, and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and, most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.